again, I'll spend a lot. Not that I'll spend a lot of time on it, but it just helps me gauge where the tone of the conversation should go. So I see quite a few ones popping in there. So there's probably a number of people that have not heard me before, and probably a few people that may not have typed in there. But just by way of introduction, for those that haven't, my own background has been over 30 years in professional sales and marketing, a decade of which I spent pretty much working in the corporate world. Many of the Irish people or people with Irish descent or connections on the call probably familiar with a company called Dairy Gold Foods, which used to be Mitchelstown Creameries. So I worked for them during pretty much most of the 90s. Worked my way up from being a relief rep to become the national sales manager, one of the youngest in the company. And in 1998, through a network marketing opportunity, I stumbled into the telecom market. The telecom market was deregulating across Europe and in the UK, because I live in the northern part of Ireland, which deregulated much sooner than the southern part. The domestic market was opening up. The commercial market had opened up maybe about nearly a decade before that, but the commercial market opened up. And what really attracted me to it is perhaps not that dissimilar to what's going on here, and that is the fact that I sat in a room, I watched a long distance lorry driver lift a telephone, and he said, every time someone lifts the receiver to make a phone call, someone's making money. Why not be you? And it just struck me as an incredible pitch, if you want to call it. And immediately I thought, my parents have got a telephone. My two brothers have got telephones. I've got three sisters with telephones. We've got a telephone. Surely if they don't give me the business, I'll be excommunicating them and not sending them Christmas cards ever again. So needless to say, without that trip, they all give me a turn in business. And within 9 months, I was making more money part-time than I was making from a full-time career. And within a year, I'd give back the company car, the gold credit card, a pretty healthy pension, and all of the perks that went with it. In fact, a lifestyle in terms of business to die for, because we were Ireland's biggest fresh food producer. We were the first Irish co-op to ever turn £1 billion in an annual turnover year, and that was during the 90s while I was there. We sponsored all of the biggest sporting events, all of the biggest concerts, and if there's anyone on the call here old enough to remember a guy called Gareth Brooks, who disappeared a few years ago, but back in 1997, one of his last world tours, actually back from that period, he played sellout gigs for 4 or 5 nights when you could then in Croke Park, and I had a box there with over 40 customers, and it was just one of the most incredible nights. We sponsored 2 of the biggest television chat shows north and south of the border. Every other week I was bringing people to green rooms and stuff. So it was an incredible lifestyle. But the reason that I share it with you is that network marketing was the thing that set me on the road to financial freedom. Very quickly, that business continued to grow. And by 2002, I'd built a pretty good UK-wide and Ireland-wide business, and European. It wasn't really international, but it then actually brought me to the point where I was able to launch my own conventional telecoms company back in 2002, which is still trading successfully today. It gave me the freedom of choice to do multiple other things, open up restaurants with brothers of mine, and lots of other things. Brought me into coaching, and it's been incredibly beneficial to me. And I have customers who I signed up back in 1998 who are still billing with me today. And just off the call traffic alone and what we're billing from that, our family enjoy a significant 4-figure weekly income just off that every single month. So the power of building something that has the potential to go on and on and on is what attracts me, as well as that. If you take there's many other good direct selling or networking opportunities out there, if you want to call them that. Perhaps the downside of them is that a lot of them involve continuing to have to resell a product. So you're only as good as last week's sales, which is the same as in any conventional selling business. If you're selling cars, selling televisions, selling whatever it is out there, you're only as good as last week's business. So that has continued to have me pursuing and looking at ways of adding additional multiple residual and passive income streams to my business life over the years. And when I seen CFX, as many of you know, particularly the ones who have heard from me before, back in 2020, at the start of 2020, I was actually very dismissive of it. In fact, I dismissed it clean out of hand for two reasons. Firstly, because I had a less than wholesome experience myself personally around the Forex trading industry, going back about a decade beforehand. I'd been on a conventional business course, and one of the speakers that time was a guy who was selling Forex training courses. He was from the UK. I was blown away by what I actually seen. And before the end of that weekend wrapped up, my brother and I, we bought a course that started at $5,000, finished up at 10 grand. We bought state-of-the-art new computer equipment. We bought a pile of trading software. And unfortunately for us, about 18 months later, not only did we lose a serious amount of capital, but we lost an incredible amount of time that we were never getting back. So when I put all of these things together, that's one of the key reasons why I made a decision that this industry wasn't for me and I wouldn't be interested in it. Couple that with the fact that in January 2020, we were living in completely different economic, and you might even describe as environmental times as well. Because unless you were perhaps working for the World Health Organization or high up in some big medical institutional company somewhere, the COVID pandemic, as we know it here in Europe and most of the developed world, wasn't even on our radar. So in January 2020, I actually run a big night, put together a program for the year, but I run a big night where a lot of people turned up, and I run an event called Abundance in 2020. I had all my goals in place, all my other conventional business. I got a travel company at this stage. My coaching business was literally flying. I'd spent pretty much half of the previous 2 years somewhere else in the world. I'd been through Dubai International Airport over 20 times, Abu Dhabi more times than I can count, down to Thailand 4 or 5 times, pretty much most of Southeast Asia, Johannesburg a few times, and practically every capital city in Europe. I was somewhere else every other week, speaking engagements, and life was a breeze. And my travel business was going well. The restaurant had its best year ever in 2019, best January in 2020, and 2 of our best days in January of 2020. So I had no interest in looking at another distraction. My life was busy enough, and this was the last thing. So when somebody mentioned it to me, I done the quick gospel of Google search, as I call it. I was able to find a couple of things that made it easy for me to say to the guys who were chatting about it that it wasn't for me. And I pointed out a couple of obvious things that I had seen, and in fairness to them, they didn't even bother trying to defend it. They just knew it wasn't for me and I wasn't remotely interested. In February, I met another friend for coffee. I thought we were just having a catch up because I hadn't spoken to this guy in a couple of years. About 2 minutes into the coffee catch up, he started to talk to me about Cash FX, but at the same time, he was also talking about 2 or 3 other concepts that he was involved in. And I said, geez, the guy's called Brian. He's actually now a president in this company. And as he was speaking to me, I said, like, why are you doing this and why are you doing that and why are you doing the other? And he said, well, if this one doesn't work, we're taking money from here, we're putting it in there. I said, hold on a minute. If this one doesn't work, I said, you're not exactly selling it to me. So when we finished the conversation, I said to him, of all the things that you're talking to me about, which one do you actually think has the best potential? And he said, probably Cash FX. And I said, well, look, if I was you, and not that I'm offering you advice, but if it was me, I'd be sticking with the one project, get it built, and if the other things are around in a few months, great. As it happens, they're not. So he took the choice to go with Cash FX, and that turned out to be very lucrative for him. When I turned it down, he then tore into my contacts like a day's work. So many guys who would have known me, who perhaps may have joined me, not many, but a handful of them joined him in that business, and good luck to all of them. It wasn't for me at that time. At the beginning of March, then I run what's called mastermind groups for people who are self-employed or small business owners, and we would meet. I'd run 3 groups for that, and we physically met once a month. The first 3, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of each month, I was meeting with these groups. We were discussing, what went right and what went wrong in the previous month. We were discussing goals for the month ahead, and basically running accountability checks and partnering up, with accountability partners. So those were going very well, and at the end of it was the Thursday night one. Another guy came over to me at the end of the night and was packing up the car outside. It was a March evening, so you can imagine what it was like in Northern Ireland on the first week in March. It was dark, it was cold, and he says, Q, got to talk to you. I goes, yeah, Joe was the lad's name. I said, what's happening? He said, Jesus, I've got something you need to see. And I'm thinking, fuck's sake, don't mention Cash FX. And he just spewed it straight out. And I said, Joe, look, unfortunately, it's not for me. And he says, have you looked at it? I says, well, it turned out Brian, the guy who had showed it to me the previous month, had brought him into the business. And I says, look, I'm sure it'll go well, but it's not for me. And why not? And the normal sort of stuff. I said, look, it's just not for me. I have too much on my plate. So that was the third time in 3 months. And then at the beginning of April, I suppose I should say, 13th of March, I was speaking at a tax optimization conference here in Belfast. And I got one of the keynote speaking positions at that event, and there was people over from a couple of big financial guys over from London, a few guys from Manchester, and a couple of other European cities, and all over Ireland. And at the end of the event, I recall the guys were heading out on the town, and my wife's a nurse, she's a medical professional, and she was adamant that I shouldn't have been going to the event in the first place. And one of the guys that I was having dinner with was sweating like a pig, and I was looking at him thinking, Jesus, I hope this guy's not coming down with you know what. So I decided not to go drinking with him afterwards. I came home. That was the 13th of March. And I remember dropping my briefcase and saying to my wife, that'll probably do me for the next fortnight till this COVID thing blows over. Little did I realize that it wasn't blowing over anyway quickly. So the next couple of weeks came and went. Easter came and went. But at the beginning of April, at the fourth time of asking, my friend Adrian, who's a good few of you know, called round and he says, Hugh, you've got to look at Cash FX. I said, Adrian, no chance. No chance. And he says, but a pile of people you know are in it. I says, doesn't matter. They'd have been in it with you. Doesn't matter. I ain't doing it. No interest whatsoever. I'm waiting for COVID to pass. My diary's full as it is, although there was a lot of postponements starting to appear in it. I didn't think it would go much beyond the beginning of May. At the end of April, I was pretty starting to resign myself to the fact that it wasn't going anywhere, and I was being inundated with people. Will you look at this? Will you look at that? Will you look at so and so? And most of it I did actually take a look at because I wasn't doing anything anyhow. I wasn't going anywhere, and I didn't like for most of the things that I was being shown. It didn't sit well with me. And when Dermot talked about due diligence, when I looked at Cash FX, all of the internet search stuff from January was ringing through my head. And now at this stage, I still had never actually looked at it properly, but I made a decision then to actually stop and do some proper research and to do some proper looking into it. One of the first things that I did, Adrian, whilst me and him get on like a house on fire, we're the best of buddies, and we've been that for many years. And he's literally maximum a 5-minute drive from my front door to his front door, probably a 25-minute walk or something like that. But we're close neighbors, you know, and I love him to bits, and he's been very successful in business, but he hasn't got really much of a clue about networking. It's not his background, and that's not being derogatory to him. He would admit that himself. Not only that, but he knew nothing about Forex, he knew nothing about Bitcoin, he knew nothing about what was really going on inside the business, except that all his businesses were shut and he needed to be doing something. And he knew pretty fine well if he could get spark my interest, there might be a chance that would help him. So needless to say, whilst I was pondering, a few more guys who knew me very well joined him in the business. And then I got him to put me in touch with his sponsor, Donald, who would know a bit more. I got Donald to put me in touch with Richard Maud, because Richard Maud's background had been seed funding capital for startup companies and expanding companies for over 20 years. So if anybody knew something about doing significant research and due diligence into a company, it was going to be Richard Maud. So probably over that week before I decided even to put the $300 in, I'd spoken to Richard on 2 or 3 different occasions. Richard then put me in touch with John Kinnear. I didn't know John Kinnear from Adam, and I didn't even know Richard, to be fair, at that stage either. But once I got a feel for the guys and understood their background, I started to becoming much more comfortable. Richard shared with me the times that he had spent on private calls with Waskar, quite a few of them in the early days. Then when I got with John, I realized that John had twice before sat on the board of Forex trading companies. I knew that this guy knew a lot more about what was going on. He told me about his experiences going down to Panama, meeting the guys and get a handle on the trading, meeting the actual traders. By the way, they're not taxi drivers, you know, for people who keep throwing that up every once in a while. They are both private and institutional background traders, and very successful in their own right. And John shared with me a lot of the stuff about that. Now, I didn't at that stage get to meet Ron Pope, but the guy spoke very heavily about Ron Pope's background, Ron Pope's integrity in terms of the caliber of businesses that he had built over the years. And not only had he not just put his name to the business, but he literally, or just as a software developer, because obviously they do develop direct selling software for other companies, but he had a networking understanding. He had been involved in networking going back nearly 2 decades beforehand, and he had never been involved in one since. He went on to build a mass fortune in property in an incredible scale. And I think at this stage, as far as I know, I'm probably the only other person in Europe that has got time with Ron Pope on a one-to-one basis, which happened actually this time last year at the beginning of October. John Kinnear organised a 20-minute call between the two of us, and that went on for 2 hours and 20 minutes in the middle of the night until my wife come up and said about 4 a.m., "Are you not flipping coming to bed?" She doesn't swear, but she was quite cross, so I can't remember the rest of it. But I had to bring the call to an end, but it was worth hearing because Ron explained to me in detail about how Wascar's background and the fact that Wascar had approached, Wascar had built a couple of very successful networks in the travel industry and in something else, I'm not sure, conventional products, where I think his biggest network was about 50,000 people. But he had amassed a fortune that meant he was worth, his net worth was a couple of million, not mega millions by any stretch, but he had, because of his travel, and if anyone's ever traveled, like Charlotte at the moment's down in Mexico, there's a lot of instability in Central and Latin American countries for either political reasons or one thing or another. And for that reason, their currencies are extremely volatile. And many of them have already adopted the US dollar as their main medium of exchange, simply because there ain't much volatility in the dollar. But their own currencies, to a large extent, are pretty worthless. So this is the case that Wascar started to study the currencies and started to watch the emergence of crypto right at the beginning with absolute intrigue. So much so he studied blockchain technology to the extent he wanted to do his own coin project. He brought that idea to Ron because he knew Ron, and Ron knew who he was, but they didn't know each other really that well. But he knew him well enough to take his call, have a chat, have a catch up, and whatever. When Wascar put the call into Ron and explained the idea, and they spent a few phone calls back and forth, Ron's advice back to Wascar was, at this moment in time, the concept is good, but how much capital do you have? And he said, I've got a couple of million myself. I can probably raise another 3 or 4 million. He says, well, I'll tell you what you do, park this idea for now, because you ain't got enough deep pockets to pull this project off. And he says, I'm being brutally honest with you. He said, you'd be blowing your money. It would be an absolute waste, because you're going to be into it, you're going to be strangled and saddled with debt, and either it doesn't work or you're going to end up giving it away, the fruit of what you have. What he said to him next was, there's an emerging cryptocurrency company that's building and educating people in Bitcoin, and you have the potential there to build a network and build a Bitcoin base. And if everything that you're saying is right about Bitcoin, because even Ron himself told me he wasn't that sold on the idea of crypto at that stage. Even though he was in software and he knew it was an emerging market, he still wasn't completely convinced. But he put Wascar in the right place at the right time. And over the next 3.5 years, Wascar himself built a network inside that network that grew to over 250,000 people. And he accumulated so much Bitcoin that at the end of 2017, cashing in less than half of his portfolio that he had built up in Bitcoin. And this is another thing, understanding our compensation plan, which I learned later on, not at the start, but I learned later on, the ingenious compensation plan that they created, was that Wascar watched people around him making a fortune. But as soon as they were making Bitcoin, they were cashing it into dollar. They were buying flashy boats, they were buying lovely cars, they were buying things that were devaluing rapidly and not being shrewd with their money. Wascar took good money out of it, so he was enjoying a comfortable lifestyle, but he was reinvesting the most of it. He already understood at that stage that Bitcoin had longevity, and once he accumulated thousands and then a couple of tens of thousands of Bitcoin, he had pretty much set himself up. And even before he started this project, Ron shared with me, in another wallet, Waskar was sitting with another 10,000 Bitcoin before they started this in one wallet alone, plus another significant amount. So the bottom line is that diversion, short time diversion that Ron suggested to Waskar is what made him a billionaire before he even started in this project. So it's important to understand, particularly guys, and I needed to appreciate this as well, because I've seen many things that have come and gone by the wayside for one reason or other. And it could be that somebody was just in for the quick buck, or maybe they had got great ideas and just managed it badly, or a whole host of different things, or maybe they just built it as an out and out scam. You know, we all have heard of these stories. All of us, I'm sure everyone in this call is familiar with at least one or two of them in some shape or form. But the important thing to know here, and I knew it that night when I finished the call with Ron, that whatever else this business might be, it wasn't set up for a quick buck. It wasn't set up for the CEO to clear off with it, because the CEO was so wealthy in his own right and had such an international property portfolio and other international business interests, that the last thing he needed to do was to build something to rip a few bob off people and make him spend the rest of his life as a relatively young guy. He's just in his early 40s, but spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder. So it's important that people understand that, you know, shit happens and we do go through difficult times in business. And again, I can gauge looking at people like John Majeka, who's already gone bald with worry at his tender young age, you know, and whatever else, wrinkles or the color of your hair. You know, I'm sure most of us have been through the mill at some stage. You know, we probably work for companies where shit happens on a regular basis, and that's just going to continue to be the case. But the one thing that I am very comfortable with is that these guys have not only got the deep pockets to see the business through, not only the best of intentions, but they have the business acumen and they're surrounded with the right people. So, you know, we have growing pains at this moment in time, you know, but again, the management of those growing pains is what I believe is building a business that's going to be, I use the word longevity. I think, what's his name? Justin has coined the legacy company name, but I prefer to look at it from a longevity point of view, because if you're in this business now and you're making yourself 2, 3, 4, 5 grand a month, in the worst case scenario, if that 2, 3, 4, 5 or 10 grand a month was consistent over a period of years, and even in over a period of decades, would it be worth sticking with it? That's how I look at it, you know, irrespective of whether you're making the sort of money that Charlotte Mary makes, that meant she could retire and clear off to the sun months ago, whilst the rest of us slave away. But, you know, all joking aside, in the last 18 months, I know from what I have done in this business, in one direct line of sponsorship, directly through me, that at least 10 people are now making over $1 million a year. I know that we've got hundreds of people who are making significant six figures. That means more than 10 grand a month on an annual basis. And I, in all of the years that I have been in business, have never been able to do that before in anything else that I've ever came across. And I haven't met that type of success either. So fast forward to where we are today, as Dermot touched on the top of the call. I set myself, these are my own small targets that I set myself when I decided then to start building the business. I joined the business, and most of you will have joined now with a 3 or a 4 spot strategy. And I do give myself the credit for initiating that, simply because some of the guys who were in before me understood the leverage in terms of having a couple of extra family slots and using the profits for those to help increase the rate with which their packages would grow. But what they didn't understand was, which is what I understood because I spent 10 days studying the compensation plan, was the power of developing a team beneath those positions. Which is why in the line of sponsorship that I have, even some of the guys might not have the biggest teams, but in terms of income, they're outperforming people who have been in the business a year plus before them, with a fraction of those size of the organization. And that's because we understood how to maximize the program. And I will be brutally honest and say, I educate everybody to take as much money off the table as you possibly can. because with all of the best will in the world, and I have every faith in the guys, shit still happens. Problems happen in conventional business. Something goes wrong, something unforeseen. I honestly, I didn't see COVID coming down the road. I now have a lot of friends who had got good, solid businesses that are gone. And I think, again, most of us could probably identify with a few people who unfortunately have ended up in that situation. So the important thing for me was, as we build a business, is to make sure we put plenty of capital and plenty of money back into our pockets, whether that's Bitcoin or conventional fiat currency or whatever you want to call it. Make sure that you get plenty. So in order to get there, the speed with which you get your business to a point where not only is it self-sustainable, but that wealth base continues to grow while you take plenty of capital out. You can't start taking money out in the early stages if you just put in a few £100 or even a couple of grand. And I'd be honest with everybody, and I say, look, between $300 and $2,000 package, there's not going to be a pile of capital left over for you, for yourself, if you're treating this like a serious business. Between 2015 and 20,000, you can get very good pocket money. I would describe it. And I say a very good pocket money could be 500 to 1,000 quid a week in your pocket, whilst not affecting the growth in your business. Once you get this business and you're trading packages north of $20,000, if you've got any team at all, you will start to be able to put some significant capital back in your pocket and not affect the growth of your packages. And that, to me, is the tipping point. When you get it to that stage, guys, you're starting to talk serious loot. And the beauty of the compensation plan is that the way the compensation plan has been put together is to get people to that level where they've got a sustainable long-term income. And when Waskar looked back over the people who were blowing their income as they earned it all those years ago, the reason he put the compensation plan in the methodology that it is today, A, that it would be sustainable, but B, it would continue to reinvent itself and continue to put money back into the pockets of the people who are building the business. Now, if you're relatively new, and I know that some of the faces out here I can see have probably spoken to going back 5-6 months ago, or Dermot, I don't know how long it is when we last did this call for your group. It could be nearly a year ago now at this stage, but or maybe the early part of this year, I can't quite recall, but
it was around April,
not far back. So guys, the bottom line is, if you're starting to get it to that type of level, you're starting to build something that's going to be incredible. And the team is, as Dermot said, it's now over 20,000 people, and I continue to be astounded by what it's been achieving. And I say that in all sincerity. It's been an incredible journey, and for what I can see now, I think we're going to be around for a long, long time to come. So Dermot, that's really part of the story. It's maybe a bit longer than you might have intended it to be, but I know what else you want me to do or talk about, or
okay, so just if you just talk about the future visions of the company and what's coming up with the company and what we have further down the line to look forward to.
Okay, so there's a lot of things coming. There's a lot of things developing there. Some again, the older I'm saying guys, as in older people in the business who have been around for the best part of a year now, will probably have heard talk about copy trading and what's been going on there. I'm one of just a handful of people that are privileged to be in the select group of people that are using and have continued to use and been part of the evolution of what's coming with copy trading. The long-term goal and aim there is still to move away from what they call pool trading, the capital's being traded in one significant pool or a couple of significant pools, and moving into individual accounts. So Carl, for example, would have his own MetaTrading 4 account on his own phone. They will still provide the signals to the broker as they're doing at the moment. And in some of those test beds, I have watched them run thousands of ping trades in and out, and executing the trades. And at the moment, it's not all about being profitable inside that. It's about actually making sure that the signals on both sides, both through our side and through the broker side, is actually registered. Because the phase one of that, whilst the signals were fine inside the pool trade, there was less of those trades going on. So the execution of them, it had less was receptors to receive the information both ways in and out. But when it was going through thousands of pings, particularly at the broker level, it was falling over. So that has moved on incredibly over the last 4 or 5 months, and the tests continue on that. And I'm not exactly sure what, but I do believe it might not necessarily be towards copy trading, but something in that vein. I believe Edwin might be sharing some significant news with us about the trading aspect or the evolution of trading at the end of month call. So again, don't hold me to it or hang me out by my tongue if you wish, but only last night I was on a call with John Kinnear, and that information was shared with us. So we're expecting something on that at the end of month call now. The other thing that's happening is the evolution and the painstaking work that's been going on with the academy and what's happening inside the academy product. And I've seen this now a number of times. You know, it would have been out, the original version of it would have been launched probably by the latter part of last year, but for the delays with COVID, and the whole thing had to be completely redone. But I've seen John Kinnear's been tasked with delivering that product, and I've been in a number of calls with him. I've been privileged to see some of the developments in that. So I think that's probably an end of quarter product launch now. But that's going to be an incredible product when it hits the streets, and it will be the equivalent. It will be the equivalent of a degree type educational platform. So it's pretty intense stuff, and that's coming down the road. What else? The frustrations perhaps that some people have had, including myself, around the payments as well. You know, we had an in-depth conversation last night on a director call with John on that too. Some of the stuff I was already aware of, but you know, one of the main reasons for moving to create their own payment providing software, excuse me, in any given weekend and any given week now, the guys are paying out tens of millions in commission. Tens of millions in commission every week without fail, no matter how far back it goes. There's tens of millions, multiples of 10, not 1, 2, or 3, but usually north of 50 million in commissions being paid out now on any given week. And the big problem that the guys were identifying going back was when that's going through a third party is that they have absolutely no control over their own capital. Somebody could go down, somebody could clear off with it, somebody could do whatever, and they would be seriously exposed. So it's just far, far, far too much capital now to be risking that. And that's where they were coming from, the evolution and the development of their own payment provision software, which has been developed through Ron's team and a couple of other third parties that have helped assist that. So understanding that, you know, when we go back to the times when we were using a third party provider, so when they had lined up the payments, and probably in the springtime of this year, in the latter part of last year, there was bits of movement all the time in Bitcoin, but not on the scale that happened around Easter time and just after that. It just has been, again, almost unprecedented for a word that's, you know, it certainly has been. This year has outperformed its best time any year beforehand. But again, the problem there was that they were having to predict roughly based on where the payments were coming from, how much Bitcoin they would have to buy, give that with the payment provider, and then unfortunately, if there was a swing, which there still is today, a swing in Bitcoin of as much as 5 or 10% or 15%, I think one day period there, just over 24 hours, Bitcoin dropped over 30%. So you can imagine in that type of time frame, having bought the Bitcoin at one stage to pay it out, the payment provider, they had to buy it, they had to block it out, give it to the payment provider, and then allow that process to take place. They could allow for a few percent either way, but that type of thing would basically have again wiped their eyes if they hadn't managed the process. It would have wiped the business for all of us. So it's part of that managerial process that meant they had to create their own provider, which will be able to pay in real time without opening up that type of volatility, and obviously move it back that they were in control of it. So when they started to use that payment provider, they'd already had the hit from the Bitcoin, which had knocked us back a few weeks. We got our own payment provider up and running. We were very happy with it, and everything was running very smoothly until pretty much the start of the summer, when we realized, or they realized, and a couple of people in my group, I think in fact John Majeka might be one of the people who's one of the first guys to realize that someone in their organization had been paid twice. And John reported that in to me, but very quickly the reports were coming in from all over the show that, and I'm sure some of you may have seen this in your back office in the past, where your pending payment went to failed, and then that failed motion, for whatever reason, should have been the execution of it, and it finished up a lot of the time creating a double payment situation. And unfortunately, on top of creating a double payment situation, it didn't actually create a separate hashtag internally, so the guys didn't know it had been paid. It didn't create a matrix movement, so therefore it wasn't flagging up internally either. And except for the initial response from members who owned up that this profit had been paid, yes, about a few days later, that have noticed a significant difference in shortfall in the amount of BTC that they were holding. But it was led by the members that they copped that on, and they had to then switch that software off completely for the best part of about 10 days, till they believed they had got to the bottom of it. Now, they sort of soldiered through it with minimal payments, started to get those picked back up, thought they'd got it sorted, because they didn't want to switch the whole platform down, and we were hit with the same thing again. And I think we've had it now on 3 occasions, but the good news is, to the best of my knowledge, and speaking with John Kinnear last night, for the last month, they've had no issue from that perspective. So they're pretty much now gearing up to the stage where the payments will start to speed up again. But the other problem, headache they've created themselves, and perhaps maybe driven by ourselves as members, is that whilst under the old system we could only do one withdrawal, we had to wait till that withdrawal cleared before we could put in the next withdrawal request. So they were processing at most, a couple of thousand payments a week, the way it was going. We've now gone from that to literally tens of thousands of processed payments, because everybody wants to be in the queue, and that has created an even bigger headache. But managing all of that process, guys, at every single stage, the one thing that I have been assured of from Ron, from Waskar, and last night again from John Kinnear, that the issue has not and never has been financial. It's been purely technical, and now managing that process through. And the guys are saying on last night's call, will we get this sorted out in the next couple of weeks? Because initially, when we were just had one set of payments in place, Ron Pope reckoned something like 14 to 15 working days they could have cleared the payments back, based on only people having payments in the system that were based on when they were last paid. That's not the case now. I don't actually know the physical number, but I think it runs to hundreds of thousands of payments sitting waiting in backlog process now. So they're coming up with a number of different solutions to speed that up. And they said, we don't want to be hung out on this, but we sincerely believe that by the latter part of this year, we will have that pretty much cleared back to where we want it to be, and where Waskar himself, in his own words, wants it to be, is about a 48-hour or 72-hour maximum payout. So when someone puts that payment request in, and many of us here who are in the business as long as I have been, I can recall times when I put in a payment and I was shocked to discover on a Saturday night that it had been paid to me on a Sunday night or a Monday morning when I got up. It was sitting in my account, and that's the aim, to get back to that level of speed. And I have every confidence again that they will. I can't think. Charlotte there somewhere? I know she said you had internet problems. I was on the call last night, but I was traveling, and I missed it. But I think that's pretty much most of it. Obviously, we had the opening of the offices, which is not just pretty impressive. It's the guts of a $6 million spend. Everything connecting from purchasing the floor to fitting the floor out and getting it fully functional. And it is, the guys genuinely believe they have created one of the most sophisticated trading floors anywhere in the Americas, if not across the world. They've put a lot of time and a lot of effort into it. And the delays again in getting the offices are the same as the people have the delays in everything else anywhere in the world over the last 18 months. And COVID has been particularly challenging in Panama. At one stage, it was that bad. They were only allowing, believe it or not, men to leave home one day and women to leave home the next day. They actually didn't let them out together. Whether there was other reasons for what, I don't know. Maybe they killed other if they met in the street, I don't know. But that literally was the way it was for the best part of 2 months at one stage, because COVID was so bad in the region, and they had one of the most strict, probably the only significantly strict lockdown in Central and Latin America, So but it is where it is, and I know that Dermot's planning or hoping to run a draw at the end of this call, but it is the case that we've had, I have had conversations with John about this and with Waskar, and we haven't yet set a date for it, but in the springtime, as in European springtime, so somewhere towards the end of the first quarter, because we don't want to do it too early, because I don't think we will have the complete freedom of people, so there's no point in getting bogged into that type of planning. But certainly towards the end of that first quarter, or perhaps in around Easter time next year, the guys have given me the green light to organise a trip from my team downwards. Waskar has a friend who owns a couple of 3 good Hiltons in around the area and a couple of other high-end luxury hotels, and I intend that we will run our own group conference down there. John has agreed to fly in. Justin will fly in, perhaps Luigi and whoever else I feel appropriate to be there. So that's going to be a big event for us, somewhere around about the latter part of the first quarter or Easter time-ish of 2022. That's assuming that we have the free movement of people, but that's the real reason for putting it back, because I think, for everywhere, the winter time is always going to be challenging anyhow, irrespective of what happens, so.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that, Hugh. I'm going to move on to just an open floor Q&A in case anyone's got anything anything that they want to get off clarity in, or any questions. So guys, if you want to speak and you have a question, just put your hand up and we'll unmute you and we'll come to you. But just the 2 things that I'd like to ask you. One, you've kind of gone through lots of bits and pieces, but just in real short, why do you think this company is going to be a legacy company or a company around for many years to come?
Well,
I know it's just
so you don't have the time for me, first and foremost, to go through the compensation plan in detail tonight. But when I studied the compensation plan over those first 10 days and went back to John Kinnear, that stage I was building a very strong working relationship with John, and I was back and forth from John a number of times over that 10-day period. I realized that these guys had put together something genuinely incredible in terms of sustainability, because I have seen good compensation plans before, but the problem with the compensation plan was it was so good that there was nothing left in it for the company, and the collapses were inevitable or somewhere down the road. And I can think even some of you, including myself, were involved in a big global travel operation. Even before I got involved in it, they had to change the compensation plan twice, which killed their business at different peak flows because it was all wrong. And I seen some other good companies that their businesses went broke because the compensation plan was completely wrong. Bad management or one thing or other. So when I went through the compensation plan and understood how it was profitable for the consumer first and foremost, and that it was stacking up, how it was profitable for the individual who wanted to build the business, and ultimately how it still finished up being very profitable, Dermot, for the company. Because if the company doesn't make money, guys, we've not got a business. So understanding that, so without going into detail now on that, that was one key thing. And also the time that I had spent with Ron discussing the trading as well. In the early days, it was tentative. And when I got on the call with the broker, and there was a handful of us on a call with the broker one night, and I realized, at that stage, the guys are never going to be now revealing the crown jewels, and moving forward, they won't be revealing the brokers. When it goes to meta traded for and copy trading, yes, it will be, because you'll have that relationship with the broker. But until that happens again, that information will never be given out again, because it completely destroyed the relationship with one of those organizations, because every gobshite and their granny wanted to cause mayhem, was doing their utmost to do it. So that type of information, now I have signed an NDA with the company, and I do get good information. I'm not saying I'm getting exactly insider trading, but I'm seeing the picture, Dermot, and I really like what I see. And I think for what it's worth, anybody on this call tonight could set themselves a figure that's believable and realistic for themselves, but taking them completely out of their comfort zone. And I believe they'd hit that in the next 12 months. And I would be talking about figures that may be at the moment in their wildest dreams.
Okay, perfect. Guys, don't forget to raise your hands if you have any questions. Hugh, can you just, I know it's a brand new thing and it's only just happened, and everything's all good with it too. They've released split payments. I know Huascar mentioned it at the last end of month call. Could you briefly explain not the ins and just an overview of the split payments and what it means?
So it basically, it helps people that particularly during the slowness of the withdrawal period, you know, and again, these two things, first of all, being able to use your commission internally and being able to use the split payment is an initiative driven by the membership, because it wasn't something particularly that the guys wanted to do, but obviously they're traveling through uncharted times because they didn't expect to be this far back where they are in terms of payments and everything else. So what they have done, they have been working on to appease the membership, but only if it's not detrimental to the company, because it's still got to stack up to continue to ensure that we've got something that's sustainable. So now, if, for example, Ahmed had got some profits or commissions in his back office and he had got access to additional Bitcoin, he can go in there now, Dermot, do the order. There's a wee video floating around. We've done an incredible amount of them have gone through the day, and the company is aware that there's a bit of an issue in terms of some people, not all of them, but some people have been overcharged on the withdrawal. But all of that's already been attended to and being sorted out, and that will be sorted out pretty quickly. You know, I know that and I don't know whether it's happened, but I know the site. You see, John's giving me thumbs up here. The site was down for about 25 minutes to half an hour's RT time here in the UK and Ireland, whilst they were doing a lot of those updates. But based on what, and I actually believe in, I haven't logged into my back office today because I've been on the road, excuse me, but based on what the members are telling me, it has made, they've seen their business skyrocket today.
Okay, so just for simple terms, if I had $1,000 in my account and I need to upgrade, I'd click the upgrade. Say you needed 1,000 to upgrade.
Yeah.
Would deduct the 20% off the 1,000 that you've in there. So now you've left with 800.
Yeah.
Add $200 from your own wallet to top that up, and then you can upgrade.
That sums it up. Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any other more questions. Does anybody have?
See, Carl has a hand up here.
Carl, do you want to unmute yourself, Carl? Where's the hands? I can't see the hands.
He hasn't used the emojis or emotions. There's reactions there, guys. If you need it, you can click the reaction, and then you'll see the hand up, and then it'll.
Sorry, it took me a minute. Thanks for that. It was a really good conversation, and thanks for clearing up about the the payments thing and the backlog, because that was something that has been affecting my own strategy. But in the long term, that's more than acceptable. It'd be nice to see it get cleared up. And also that the payments and that is a very welcome development as well. Is there anything more that you can tell us about the upcoming KYC process? Because that was talked about, then it was delayed, and we wondered if it's coming or not.
So the KYC process is parked for now, Carl, for a number of different reasons, and even here in Ireland, in Europe, we have had our own counsel on that as well. And the fact that the guys are actually using BTC in, BTC out in its own right in just about every country at this stage is unregulated. So therefore, and there's not a KYC process there unless you actually have a fiat interaction. But the actual fact that we're going in BTC and coming out in BTC means that we actually genuinely don't have to have that KYC dimension. Now, having said that, the guys felt in their own right that it was something that they wanted to implement. The issue was that there's two issues at stake here. First of all, Wascar's own dream for the business was to some extent, help what we might describe as the undocumented and the unbanked, allow people in countries and regions across the world, and I know there's a few people here like Ahmed and other ones who have extremely challenging times in the countries that they live in, just being part of the process in any shape or form. You know, so to be able, and many of these countries haven't got electricity bills coming to their home. They haven't got all of the various different things that we would understand in the Western world. The second thing is that they employed a company, and I know that the figure was a significant multiple six-figure monthly sum to manage the process, who they believed and who sold them that they could really do this process, Carl, and it fell over in its face at the first 48 hours of asking. And I knew that would happen. And I actually suggested that that probably would be the case, and it proved to be the case. So the reality is that it's still something that the guys have part of their long-term vision. But what I will say to you, Carl, is, and I've had this conversation with Waskar and a number of other directors, is that in the foreseeable, if not the long term, certainly not the immediate, and probably not the foreseeable, but the next time they do try to implement that, the members who are already in there won't be the first people to be using it. They may well use a test bed, but the membership and the active accounts that are active won't be part of phase 1, 2, or even 3. New signups almost certainly, but not the existing membership base, because that's just going to continue to create more mayhem.
Oh, well, that's great to hear. Well, that suits me fine, because I don't particularly want to care about the KYC process, and I absolutely stand about the unbanked as well. That's one of the reasons I invest in Cardano, because it's such a big thing.
Yes.
Do across Africa, that, and I think it's a great thing to be considering those people that need access to these things, across the board. Because they don't have bills or anything to prove themselves. So that's a good thing. To appreciate that. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Dermot, I know that you have a lot of other things going on, but I actually genuinely have another call to do, and I don't wish to be, but if we have another few calls, about another 5 minutes or so maybe, and then unless you wanted me here for the big reveal, or you're muted, Dermot.
Does anybody have any other questions, guys? No. Okay. So what I will get you to do, Hugh, is I'm going to do what just to tell them a little bit about. Many people know it, but your promotions you've got going on at the moment.
Okay, guys. So Dermot, by the way,
will I share it, will I, or will you?
Yeah, well, you can do very briefly, because what I wanted to say is Dermot's the only team that haven't submitted any upgrades yet. So I'm assuming that no one in this team is aware that we're running an upgrade promotion. But I should dig at Dermot there, but I know he's on top of it. But all joking aside, guys, this is a membership as in director-led initiative. And part of the key reason for doing this promotion was I done it to my own smaller group back in March, because I realized that over 60%, and the percentage actually still hasn't changed, over 60% of our membership are trading south of $1,000. And now that I'm in the business some 18 months, worse than that, it's amazing how many of those existing just purely trading members, which also is in excess of 60%, are getting close to maxing out their contract. And many of them have. That suggests to me that we have a disconnect between our business builders and our passive membership base. So the key reason for running this promotion, and all of the directors have got behind it, this 20K is coming purely from the directors. Myself, Declan and Jason are covering the majority of it, and the other directors a significant contribution, but between Declan, Jason and myself, there's 12 of that 20 grand coming from us. So that's a significant commitment from us, and the real reason for it is to get our members to re-engage with their passive members, make them aware of what was going on. Just say, look, I'm just going to say Dean, because I see Dean as one name on the screen here. Dean, you may well go back to some of your existing members that you mightn't have had a conversation with and say, look, I'm making you aware your account's trading very well, and it's almost certainly, I think it's 83%, it only has to be on a $300 account to upgrade and cover your costs, which is pretty staggering. That's including all of your fees because of the internal upgrade, guys. So it's about going back and re-engaging, which is why 10 grand of the 20 grand is going to the smaller packages. So whether it's Lee, whether it's Trevor, whether it's Tom, whether it's Mark, Ann, or Simon, or whoever else is in the call, or Debbie, it's about re-engaging with the people who are trading lower accounts. Probably not the people who are on this call. You're on the call because you've got an interest in perhaps carrying the business forward. But when you take a look at that, and I'm not sure if you can all see it there or who's prominent, but basically, this, it speaks for itself. Anyone who goes from 3 to 500, 500 to 1,000, or to 2,000. And in fact, Carl, I'm just picking you out as a name here, but you might be trading a $300 account and you move to 500, you move to 1,000, and you move to 2 from the 1st till the 31st of October. That is going to give you, that's 3 separate individual upgrade choices. You will have 3 tickets in the draw at on the 6th of November for a potential to win $1,000 towards your next upgrade. Now, if that's not an incredible lift for someone who's trading a smaller account, I don't know what is. Even somebody who's trading a $2,000 account, if they go from 1,000 to 2,000, that's obviously 100% increase in their trading value. But that extra $1,000 that we will give them if they win that prize is a 30% increase in their trading every week. It's an incredible incentive. And then the other ones, from 2,000 to 20,000, it's 3,000, and again, if you took a couple of upgrades inside that, every upgrade you made inside that bracket will account towards one of those, and then the other figures speak for themselves. Or a 4,000 prize for the top one. Go on ahead, Dermot. And this is what we call the super sponsorship aspect of it. So again, it could be Lee and Jody, who I know have been sponsoring away quite significantly over this last number of weeks, sponsor 3 people. So you start one person who takes a 4-spot strategy. That's 3 new sponsorships for them. So therefore they're in the draw for 5. This is a pure cash prize, by the way. So if they win that prize, that's $500. If they win the 6 to 10, they get $1,000, and 11 or more. And there are people who have achieved that, is in the draw for $1,500 with the Bitcoin. That's an incredible giveaway, and according to Justin and John, back to me, no other organization has put this level of commitment or offer back into their organizations. So it's purely member driven. It's funded by the membership. It's funded by the directors, and it's an incredible incentive, I believe, and the proof will be in the pudding. But I can see the re-engagement down through the lower levels has proven that, again, it has been well worth running.
Okay, cool. So thanks for that, Hugh. I'm going to go on into, look, if you have to leave, that's absolutely fine. And thank you for your time. I'm just going to announce the competition that I'm going to run.
Am I in the draw?
Well, you can't. Well, no. You're excluded, I'm afraid. You'll be there anyway. You've already told us to call. So.
Yeah, and we will probably run a few other incentives, as we build up into that come the turn of the year, and we put the date in the diary and everything else that goes with it. So, but we'll touch on that again. So listen, Dermot, and guys, listen, it's lovely to see so many people, over 60 of you on the call tonight. Hopefully you found it useful. As I say at the end of all the calls I do,
I think it's only you that's over 60 on the call. And maybe you're over, maybe Graham Dullahan. Maybe.
Yeah, 60 members, you smart ass. Yeah, okay, that's all right. So you're off the Christmas card list for sure. I always say to people, folks, that the most valuable thing I feel I have in my life is family. And the second and third most valuable thing we have is time and oxygen. Every breath we take isn't coming back, and every tick that talks ain't getting back. So I use my time very, very diligently, and I'm very sparing with it. So I hope that, I certainly don't feel it was a waste of time tonight. I think it was good use of my time, and I hope that you feel the same. And somewhere in the not too distant future, I might just share this with you. Ahmed, this might be bad news for you, but for anybody who's in the European catchment area, I should say, we are planning to run an event in Ireland at the end of November, the last weekend in November. For obvious reasons, we're not putting all of the information out there, but if you want to get with Dermot and Charlotte and John and probably Lee and Jody and some of the other leaders, will definitely get some of that information in the very near future. We won't be publicizing it anywhere. It'll be private invite, but it'll be something well worth coming to. And if you sing, you might get a free dinner. But anyhow, listen, guys, thanks for the
Right,
time,
thanks very
and
much.
thanks for all that you do, everybody, you know, including Dermot, for putting this together. It is the case, guys, and one other cliche that's frequently used around the networking industry is that you cannot be successful in your own right. I challenge that inside this business, because it's the first time I've been involved in something where I can just sign myself up. I can enjoy the commissions and still be successful. Depending on how much you bring will determine how quickly that success is. But you'll not achieve the ranks in this business, and you'll not be really successful without helping other people. And that is true. That is so true. So Charlotte didn't get to manage her on her own. She got there because she'd built a good team and the team worked well. I didn't get to direct her without the work and the efforts of everybody else and everybody's commitment. And if you're on this call tonight, folks, I'm telling you, a bit of focus is amazing what 90 days of focus could do for your business. And if we carry that through, I'm confident we'll see a lot of new executives, a lot of new managers. And before we go to Panama, guys, and I think the company is planning a major conference in Europe somewhere in the springtime as well. So you want to be there, guys, at those corporate events, being at least manager above. If you're a director, you're definitely a different level in terms of what you get access to, information, everything else. But president, guys, for me, I have taken the money every single time. I'll be brutally honest. Like, what do you call it? I was going to say Harry Maguire. What do you call him? Jerry Maguire. Show me the money. But when I get the president, I am taking the portion. If you get Terland, we can burn a lot of rubber together. So thanks for your time, guys. Take care. God bless, and I'll chat to you all soon.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, guys, it's not, the call's not finished yet, so stay on the line. Look, many of you would have noticed that I've reached 700 members very recently. And again, just like you said, it's a credit to everybody on this call, and it's directly due to your hard work and efforts, not just mine. So thank you very much for that. And as I said, you know, I think with the offices being open, the company 2 years old, it's the right time to launch an incentive promotion, where, as Hugh mentioned, we're going over to Panama, obviously COVID depending on the date, but probably around March or April time. And I'm going to run a promotion here where we take 3 people with us. Okay, so I'm going to run through that promotion. 1 second, I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see that? Yeah, perfect. Okay, guys, so look, going to put out a trip to Panama. With flights and accommodation included. We're going to get a tour of the office, the head offices, meet the corporate staff. And I think this part is probably one of the most important parts of it. Meet the traders and actually watch them putting the trades on in real time, you know. And there's 3 spaces. There's 3 spaces with me up for grabs, and they're open to everybody in this group and open to everybody that's obviously not on the call. So guys, so this so we're going to call it the superstar sponsor, and the promotion, guys, it runs from the 28th of October to the 30th of November. So from tomorrow, this is when it starts. Okay. The price, again, what I said was flights, accommodation, the tour, the staff, the traders, meet in real time. And here's what you got to do. To be in with a chance, you must personally sponsor at least 10 people between October the 28th and the 30th of November inclusive. Okay. The person who sponsored the most, so once you need 10 minimum, the person who sponsored the most will automatically get 1 place on the flight, get one seat on the flight to Panama. Okay. And everybody else who gets 10 or more will be put into a draw, and we'll do a random draw using the Google random number generator, which is used in all the draws that we do, for the remaining 2 spaces. Okay. And I think, guys, you know, like my journey to CFX, you know, I won't go through it all because most of you have heard it. You know, in 16 months from an initial $800, when I did my research, I upped it to 7,300 after put another 6.5 grand after about 5 or 6 weeks. And since then, I haven't put a penny more in. I've withdrawn over 150 grand from the platform every time the money has landed. I took 6 weeks in Spain in the summer, so I took 15 grand out for that. And I suppose I've spent about 25 grand in total. I'm now trading 85,000. That will be, that's collectively across 5 accounts, guys. Okay, I've got 5 accounts. Now you might ask why do you have more than one account? For many different reasons. The main reason is when you get to the 100 grand, it's an extra account of extra money. So, you know, one account based on what we're seeing at the moment is about 3.5 grand a week. It's nice, lovely, not life changing. If you had 2, 7. If you had 3, it's 10. So you can do the maths yourself. So that's the main reason. And plus, guys, 2 accounts grow quicker than 1. 3 accounts grow quicker than 2. So you'll actually get there faster and you'll have a higher trading returns. And then you have the business side again, which we probably won't go into too much today. Okay. So guys, the terms and conditions, okay? If a member creates new family spots, they would count as new direct members. So for argument's sake, if I had 1 account and I wanted to open 3 accounts for myself or 2 accounts for myself, that counts as 2 direct sponsors. Okay. The total number of members sponsored for a position is calculated by actual direct sponsors, level 1 in the uni level. Each unique username position must meet the referral criteria, i.e. over 10, to qualify for an entry into the draw. Okay, so for example, if a member, position 1, uses a family spot, position 2, as the sponsor for the new member, then the sponsorship is only added to the tally for position 2. So for argument's sake, if I have Dermot and I have Dermot A, Dermot B, Dermot C, I can't put 3 in A, 3 in B, and 4 in C and say, there's my 10 sponsors. It's got to be 10 under the 1 account. Okay. The draw will be made up, as I said, using Google's random number generator. The dates of the trip will be confirmed in due course. Obviously, this will be COVID dependent. Okay, we'll give everyone as much notice as we can. The winner, guys, can pass their prize on to another CFX member only. Okay. And then obviously, guys, somebody has to make it the final decision. So the final decision will rest with me. Okay. And it'll be done in a public meeting. So anyone who wants to see it can log on and see it. Okay. And finally, it's on, guys. Good luck. And guys, this is a great opportunity for people to really engage and grow the business. You know, I had a conversation with someone the other day, and you know, they were asking me, oh, how do my friend, he won't do it, or you know, I don't feel comfortable, whatever. And I just said, look, if you were my friend, so Dean has been my friend for a number of years. If Dean did something, and then I found out 18 months later he was doing really well with it, I'd go, oh, Dean, I thought I was your friend. Why didn't you tell me? Oh, I didn't think you'd do it. Let me make my own decision. So I always say, guys, our job is to give the information. What they do with that information is entirely up to them. It's not for everybody. If they do it, great. And if they don't, that's okay. So guys, just with this, I am going to make myself available to do private one-to-one presentations for the whole month of November. Anyone that wants to set it up, feel free to give me a call. I have my own Calendly system, which I'll share with you now. 1 second, sorry. So I have a link I will put in the group. So when you click on the link, this is what you will see. So if you want to book in a time, say on Thursday, for argument's sake, there's my available times for Thursday.
Dermot?
Yes?
Sorry for butting back in here just 1 second, but somebody came back to me and made me aware of something that I should have perhaps said, and that is just how to come back from the other call before we lost the moment was, I'm just saying out here, guys, I see a handful, but I don't perhaps see a lot of you. On a Thursday, we run the giveaway call, and it's other people have been using it to absolutely explode their business. I mean, on a grand scale, really explode their business. We're now pumping hundreds of people every Thursday onto that call, and the guest base is growing and growing. People are coming on it and getting the excitement. So I just want to say, Dermot, I'm going to sort of do what I maybe wouldn't have expected to do, but I'm just going to appeal to you guys to, if you haven't been on those calls before, take advantage of them. It will help explode your business. And I just wanted to put that in there, Dermot, before I go, because a few guys were messaging me. I forgot to send the link out, but it's the same link as always. It's going out to everybody now, and use that link on a Thursday, guys. I'm telling you, it'll make some difference to your business.
And that's the $300 giveaway. So
that's the $300 giveaway, 10 a.m. on a Thursday morning and 8 p.m. in the evening.
So it's for new members. So when you get
yes, in terms of the prizes for new members, but even if you're in the business, come along and see the excitement that's building through those calls. I think you'll be impressed. And then you can plug your own guests into them as well. Let them take advantage of it, you know. Yeah. Okay, sorry for interrupting, because I see you're in full flow there, you know.
No worries. Thank you for that.
Okay, guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Right. Okay, guys. So I'll touch base. I was going to mention that call in a second. So just for argument's sake, book at 12 o'clock, confirm. We'll put the name, email address, number, county, city, name of person who invited you on the call, and the number to text message. So when I schedule that event, that person will get a confirmation text message. They'll get a confirmation email. They'll get a reminder text message, reminder email of the call. They'll also get the link to the call. Okay. And then, so we've got everything automated. I'll jump on. We share the presentation. Then we have automated messages afterwards. Okay. And that way you can go on. Now, if I complete this, which I won't, it will, 12 o'clock will be gone. So then if Dean wants to book somebody in, he'll look, there's my availability. I'll also get a message on my phone. So guys, I'm going to make myself available for you guys, and I'm happy to do it. Okay. Alternatively, and they're very, very good, they have team calls, which you just mentioned. Have them every day, twice a day, where big leaders in the team, the directors, the managers, and above will do a full presentation, explain everything to you. So this is not about you learning everything. You guys, your goal is to become master inviters. Okay, let us do the explaining. Okay, so I post them, or will be posting them every single Monday, all the calls, the times, who's doing them, and the links. Okay, Thursday's call, where all the new members, so anyone you invite, they go on, they go into a raffle at the end of the presentation, and they're and the winner will get $300. They get to start for free. It doesn't cost them anything. Okay. Also, guys, I have designed up, for anyone who wants this, you can contact me in the group, a fast start playbook. Okay, so I won't go through it. I just for anyone that's looking to start this, to grow their business, or simply just share it with their friend or their brother. Okay, the contents with first things first. Know your why. It's really important to have a goal, because when things are tired and things aren't going so well, it pulls you back. Setting your goals, making your list of people, and don't forget anybody, guys, because the one person you least expect will say yes, and the one you think will do it won't. And just become an inviting machine. And in this playbook, guys, and the golden rule and inviting. So in this playbook, guys, there is 20 or 30 different scripts of what to say, what not to say, how to say it. And that's not to say, guys, you have to sound like me. It's important that you're friends for how you talk, not how I talk. These are just a guideline. Okay. And then how to close them, just simply ask the question, the enrollment checklist. So when somebody or how to enroll somebody, and then when they sign up, what to do after week 1, what to do after week 2, what to do after week 3. It's all about plugging them into the information. See, I hope you've all got a benefit of today. When you go on these calls, that's when you get your belief. That's when you get your questions answered. The people who don't believe in this and people think it's X, Y, and Z are the people that are looking from one week to the next, hear one thing on Google, and that's what they believe. We plug into the information and give it to them the correct way, get their questions answered. After that, whatever they do is up to them. We're not here to sell, to push. We're here just simply to give the information. People have so many things to worry about in their lives, especially these times. We don't want to be putting another added pressure on them. We're simply sharing the information, and if they want to do it, great. We'll help them, we'll support them. After that, if they don't, that's okay. I always say a no is never a no. It's just a no for now. I think somebody typed that in the group earlier. Okay, guys. Well, that's it. I mean, this is the time to launch your team, guys. Really to give you a chance to see that belief. You know, like I've done everything in this company well, not everything. I haven't got the ranks, but in terms of my belief, this is the last piece in the jigsaw. To stand in them offices with my phone, take a video, watch the traders trading. After that, nobody can say anything. Okay, so guys, it's there for everybody. It is once in a lifetime, but it's a really good big prize, you know. So guys, it's there for you now if you want. All right. So that's it. Thank you very much for your time. I did say it would be 90 minutes, so we lasted 88 minutes. So anyone want to sing a song for the last 2 minutes? Okay, guys, listen, I have that recorded, and I'll send it out, post it in the group for anyone that's missed the call. There's a lot of real key stuff there that Hugh McAlinda went through in terms of the future vision of the company and the due diligence, and obviously the elephant in the room, which is the withdrawals. You know, it's a pain in the ass for everybody, but it is what it is. And I really think the company has taken 4 or 5 steps back with it, but once they come back good, they'll take 6 or 7 forwards as a result of it. People will then get, oh, it wasn't the money. It really was, you know, really was the glitches in the system, because they have double the members. So if money was an issue, they wouldn't be able to get back that way, you know. So it's really good, guys, that you're on the call. And I hope this is the catalyst to really start and launch 2022. There's no reason why it can't be an amazing year for everybody, you know. All right. Thanks very much, guys. See you again. Take care.
Thanks, Dermot. See you in a while.
Cheers, brother.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
See you guys.
يا أخ بهدلتينا ويضحك صاحبي.